Welcome to Rock the Crown. Introducing our host, Nafisa, queen about her business from 60. Host Naima, queen get it done and fitness guru. Host Nefertari, queen residential redeveloper and creative director. Host Daaiyah, boss queen biz and youth motivator. All right, Crown Nation, let's get it. Season 2, Rock the Crown.
Hi, Crown Nation. This is your girl, Daaiyah, and I'm here with
Naima,
Nefertari,
Nafisa.
and we are here at Rock the Crown, and this is our second episode of Season 2. We're coming back here. It's been a long time since we've seen you all. We hope that you have been anticipating our return. Well, we're back. We're here.
Yes, we're back.
We have some lovely episodes that are planned for you all. We wanted to start off this season with love. Last episode, we talked about, celebrating love. We talked about the love languages and learning your spouses and your children and your family's love language. Yeah. And now we just want to kind of go into celebrating Black love. You know, we want to talk about the relationships that have longevity. We want to talk about our young people who are now, taking that journey into relationships and kind of feeling their way around and being very good at it. And we also want to talk about those of us who are now going into our second marriage or third marriage, just second time, the next time around, because sometimes, as we know, things happen in relationships, right. People grow apart. And so I just applaud those people who get back on the horse and try it again. Right. Life is meant to be lived, and, we are meant to, to journey with our companions. So right. We can talk a little bit about those today. And so we've broken them down into 3 different phases, we'll say. And the first one is those couples who have been married for a long time. There are many of them. And I'm just going to go ahead and let Naima give us a little overview about some of the couples and the phases that we'll be talking about.
All right. Thank you so much, Daaiyah. So again, as we talked about, we're going to be talking about longevity, millennials, and the next time around. So what about longevity? I think that oftentimes when we think about longevity in love and relationships, we think about it being like these people are so in love and they're making it work. And it's just a long haul. Mean that it's been easy. Longevity means that we've done nouns of love and verbs of love. We've had to exercise, put on our dumbbells, strengthen, do our push-ups, do our crunches. Love is work. So when we think about longevity, we should kind of think of it in different phases, not only just as individuals, but as generations and as cultures. So when you think about love, think about the type of love that you're getting into and for longevity. Are you in a relationship with someone that is culturally matched with you? Are you in a relationship with someone that is spiritually matched with you? Are you in a relationship with someone that wants the same goals in a relationship as you? And when we start talking about these generations, we're living right now with about 5 generations of people. 5. So going all the way back to traditionalists. Everyone knows that if you were born in the 20s, 30s, there was really no such thing as getting a divorce, exactly. Right? You ain't seen nobody that born in the 1920s and 30s. That was just not a thing. It was like, okay, we're going to get married and we're going to stay married regardless, period. I don't care what it is. I don't like you. You don't like, we're going to stay married. Then we kind of move into the phase of the baby boomers. Everything is about love and sex and let's do all that, right? And so really this is when you start seeing people doing the breakdown, right? So a lot of our parents began to go through divorces late in their relationships. They were together 20 something years, 30 something years, and then all of a sudden they're getting divorces, and we're looking like, what? Right? And so then you have us, our generation, as we would say, X, right? We were kind of confused about why after 20 years our parents are getting a divorce, right? And so then we have to kind of navigate through what's happening with us in longevity and how are we going to sustain the relationships. And that's then what leads us into thinking about, man, you know what? We thought we had it right because we thought we saw our parents, but then we ended up going through some divorces, and now we're having to go through our second time around. And guess what? Then we're teaching our millennial children about love. So thinking about longevity in love, always remembering that it takes work, it takes struggle, and that you really need to be with someone that you want to struggle with. It's not easy, right? Staying 150 years and, you know, just thinking about all of the secrets that people have told us, all of the wisdom that comes with being married to someone for such a long time, and really, really focusing on, hey, let's talk to some couples who have had that sense of longevity and what was their experience with that. And we'll have a couple of examples of a couple that has been together for over 30 years, and they're going to share us their recipe for success. And then moving into millennial love. Now, I have children, Daaiyah has children, Nefertari has children, Nafisa has children, and mostly all of us have sons, right? A couple of daughters sprinkled in there a little bit, but for the most part, everyone has sons. And when we start thinking about millennial love, what does that look like? And let me tell you, as a parent, it looks interesting, right? So my sons are all in their mid 20s, and they're not thinking about getting married. They're like, these women out here, I don't know what's going on with them. I don't see any quality. And so we also know that with the millennials, they have a different type of love language that's going on right now, right? Their love language is not even necessarily what I've seen from a lot of young people that my sons hang around, and then I don't see a lot of physical touch going on, right? And so what the boys often tell me is that there's a lot of affirmations happening. They love to be affirmed in these type of relationships, not necessarily that you know, all of these other things are going on. They love gifts because, you know, everybody wants presents and money, and you know, so it's going to be interesting to talk about and to talk to those millennials that are currently in sustaining relationships, healthy, nice, love relationships, and then going into the second time around. So of course I am checking off that bucket. I'm in my second time around relationship. And first marriage, I was married for 16 years, and I'm currently going on 11 years in my second relationship. I'm sure y'all are probably like, well, how old is she? I'm old enough to have had 2 relationships over 10 years of marriage, right? And so even in the second time around, really just understanding yourself, the complexities of doing something different and doing something new, and understanding, are you getting what you need the second time around? And that comes with really understanding yourself, not giving into, hey, you know what, it's okay, I'm not, you know, kind of making concessions for yourself, but really realizing and understanding that for that longevity, you have to do the work, So with all of that overview, I want to turn it over to Nefertari, who's going to share with us some thoughts on longevity. Nef?
Well, I, you know, when I think about longevity, I have great examples that have been around me in my life. When I think about my family, of course, just immediate with my parents, different people in our community who have been there. I think about my grandparents who were together for over 50 years. I remember having a little celebration. And so I actually used my parents and my grandparents as examples for my own self. I too am on the next relationship times 3. So with my first marriage, I was married for 12 years. And then my second marriage, sometimes I tend to forget that happens. It happened, it was just a few months. And so I am on my third marriage, and it's a blessing. You know, we've been together for almost 8 years now. Well, been together for 9 years, almost married for 8 years. And so it's really a great example. And so what I've had to look at are my parents, for example, just, you know, that immediate. And so, and of course, they were married almost 52 years, you know, just this year. My father passed in the first quarter of the year back in March. And so I really felt good about us being able to celebrate Black love for them in their 50 years, just 2 years ago, which seems like it was just a few months ago. And so them having that, but just being able to watch them growing up, knowing that things are not always going to be, you know, what we feel when we first get married, and, you know, all the accolades and the glitter and the gold, so to speak. You know, when you think about longevity with marriage, it's kind of like when you think about the different seasons, you know, you have the fall, the winter, the spring, and the summer. Relationships kind of evolve in that same way, and maybe even throughout the year, you know, through those 12 months, they just seem to come and go with different things. But, you know, so it could get cold and brutal and look like things are stale or not there. And then as the season changes, you know, you start to see these little buds, and, you know, you have to, like, you know, fertilize it and add all of those ingredients to it that you need. And so being able, and then just knowing each other, learning each other, and being able to, you know, give each other space when it's needed, or be there for each other and be close when it's needed. Then also learning and knowing the responsibilities and the roles of the couples. So, you know, I think that's like a big thing, you know, when you, like, a lot of times we might call it like old school, you know, when you think about men roles and women roles. But when we think about, like, you know, kind of like Naima mentioned earlier, you know, back in the day, it's like divorce wasn't even thought of. It's like, what is that word, you know? So, and if you have in your mind, I heard a younger couple speak on this last month, is that just in their relationship, they're saying no matter what, it's like divorce is not an option. And so that's part of, like, having that longevity, is like, you can't resort to that thing, that D word, so to speak, you know. But at the same time, you have to, and I would say in my first marriage, for it to last for 12 years, that was my goal. It was like, because I had my example of my parents, I had my example of my grandparents, and this is the way it's supposed to be, and they've been through things. Anytime you see anybody who's been married for a long time, you know they've been through something, right? Right. And so, because it's never really easy, but at the same time, if they're going through some of that, you know, being in the trenches, so to speak, you're also experiencing a lot of that other thing. So you do have to have your checks and balances, you know, you got your pros and your cons. And so for me, within my first marriage, I tried to weigh things out a lot like that. And then toward the end, it just kind of got to a point where I'm just really kind of down and low on life. And so that was kind of a reality check for me to know that, you know, just because this has happened for this couple and that couple, you know, I have to understand that, you know, God does permit divorce. He does allow this, and for different reasons, for whatever. And so when you get so down to where you're just not really seeing that thing that's going to help you with the longevity, then you just kind of, you know, you have to exit and you think about your health in some ways, to think about that. And so I've had, like, really good examples. And then the other thing is just getting back on and trying again, you know, and Nafisa will kind of go into that later with the next time around. But I think, you know, for longevity, it's just a matter of, you know, keeping prayer, you know, putting God first, respecting each other, respecting each other's space, you know, being, you know, having love for one another. And like I said, just kind of like going through those different seasons, you know, and being able to allow a person to be who they are, and you accept them for who they are. You know, when I think about longevity in relationships too, I think about, like, wisdom. Oftentimes we kind of look to older couples and we want to know, well, how did you, you know, what kind of advice can you give? Like, how did you get to this point? Or what did you do when this came up? Because it definitely came up, you know, they dealt with different things, you know, right, you know. It's like how, and a lot of times our newer, you know, I would say even for me, like, sometimes just going through a counsel of some sort, whether it's, you know, your immediate family or you want to seek a professional counseling, because sometimes just dealing with the two of you, it may not be enough, you know, where you have to consult with someone, whether it's a really good friend or a parent. But, you know, it has to be someone who you can trust, someone who's honest, someone who, you know, doesn't sway one way or the other, you know, or somebody that don't like, or someone who's, you know, don't have your best interest at heart, pretty much. Right. You want to, you know, make sure that you have that. And I think that for our older people and who've been married for so long, they have really great advice and wisdom based on their experiences. Right. One of the things too I think about when it comes to longevity is like special occasions, you know, just being able to celebrate like each year. And I know this is a little bit different from relationships, but when I think about celebrating each year, I think about my 6-year-old. You know, I had him later on in life at 43, and he, every year that he would get older, it's like, it was a celebration. I'm like, thank God he's 1, thank God he's 3. Like, I don't want to look back. And so I know that's the same sentiments or a feel of just, you know, when you're married and you'll be able to, you know, you can add on that next year and that next year. And it's like a celebration. It's like, wow, we did it. We've gotten this far. And to be able to see that. And so that was part of like, you know, and even as a parent, I mean, as a child, like Naima mentioned before, like, you know, you get, you know, when your parents have been married for 20 something years, and then all of a sudden it's like, what do you mean it's not going to work? You've been together this long, and then you kind of don't know what to do with that.
Right.
For me, it's like for my parents to get to 50 years and themselves, it was just like such a big thing, you know. And so, you know, I just really commend them for that. And then you've got couples who are older who didn't necessarily get through it, but they're like newlyweds, so to speak. So sometimes, even though they didn't last in a relationship, they still have a lot of good stuff and information from life experiences to give. So definitely. So I don't know, what do you guys have to say, you know, any input on longevity, or do we need to move on to the new millennials?
I would love to dig into the new millennials. But I do love, you know, what you mentioned about longevity. And I think it's so great that you have had those examples, you know, of couples who have gone, you know, who have gone the distance, as they say. I would say in my life, I have not had a lot of examples of, you know, long marriages. And so I think that has an impact on us. Yes. And I think it also, though, motivated me to try my best to have a long marriage. You know, like I think that in a lot of ways, that's what kind of kept me in a marriage that maybe was not serving me, because I did want my children to grow up and see a marriage, you know, long-standing marriage. Right. So that's sometimes what we do. So we have to kind of be mindful, because sometimes we do just stay married for the kids, you know, so that we can, you know, show them that. But if what you're showing them in a marriage is not the best example, then it's time to kind of reconsider and kind of move on. Yeah. But what I wanted to talk about, and what's close to my heart is, as always, is the youth. You know, I won't call them youth because they don't like to be called youth, but the new millennials, you know, and new millennials are, I think it's those that are born like between 82 and 96, I think. So like they're in their 20s now, you know, approaching, you know, 30s possibly. And so they are, you know, starting to, you know, get into long relationships. And I think that there, of course, comes a lot of challenges with that, because I can say that one of the reasons that many marriages fail is because we don't truly have a good understanding of ourselves. Right. You know, we go into a marriage, you know, not knowing who we are, so therefore not knowing what we need or want in a mate. And so we make a selection, you know, based on, you know, who we think we are at the time. And then sometime as we grow into our true selves, you know, then we see that we're kind of drifting away from that person. So I think that would be step one for the new millennials, is to really, really take the time to really find out who you are. You know, find out, you know, what your strengths are. Find out, what you want in a mate. Find out what your goals are. What are your life goals? You know, so that when you're choosing a life partner, you know, you kind of know that you have someone who's going to complement you and who's going to help you to achieve those goals. So that definitely is step one, is to find out, you know, do that self-work. Right. Do that self-reflecting to find out, you know, who I am, you know, and you can find that also, like we talked about, by other people. Other people will sometimes tell you yourself. Your close friends and family, you know, will definitely tell you who you are. Sometimes it's not always in the best way, but sometimes, you know, it kind of leads you to those answers that you need.
Sure.
And then also, as we think about the new millennials, we think about, you know, the technology age, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we think, well, they have so much access. Like, you can look on your phone, right? And that's the new thing, the online dating. What we do, we swipe right if you like them, swipe to the left if it's a no,
Right.
right? So, but what this does is, so if you have your mates that you're selecting and they're on the phone, then people are really presenting themselves in a different way, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're online, you're only putting forth the best, right? You're only, you know, snapping shots of those times that you worked out. You know, you're only, you know, snapping that one time that you actually, you know, went to this business seminar, you know,
Right,
the
right.
time you're sitting on the couch. So, so you
And
know,
I like to
people are not-
travel.
that one time when somebody dragged you to the beach, you know, kicking and screaming, and you got there and you're like, oh, this is nice. Let me take a picture, you know, and didn't return again. But so that's kind of the challenge that they have, is really trying to peel back all of those layers of this social media profile that this person has created to find out, okay, who are you really? You know, who are you really? And so I think that's a huge challenge that they have, you know, as new millennials. And then also, you know, another thing that causes issues in marriages is finances, right? So the new millennials, most of them are either in school or just coming out of school, finding their way. So finances are really, really tight.
Definitely.
And they also have this, you know, insatiable desire for, I think that's a juicy word.
Yeah, insatiable.
They
It is
have
insatiable.
this desire for
Insatiable.
material things, right?
do.
So they want all of these things, but
With
then they
no
have
work.
this very small budget, you know, very, very small income that they're working with. And so, you know,
And don't want to work.
and they have the work ethic.
Yeah.
But I will say this, you know, so that, you know, those are all of the challenges that our poor children, I have to stop calling them children, okay, that our young adults are facing.
Yeah.
So when you're dealing with all of these things on your own, you know, you're trying to finish school, you're trying to get a good job, you're starting your career, and on top of that, you're trying to be in a relationship and you're trying to be this mate for someone, that can be very, very, it can be very overwhelming. And so just as, you know, Nefertari mentioned that, you know, her parents and her, you know, elders were her examples and her, you know, where she got a lot of her wisdom from to be able to have her, you know, have the advice for her marriages. You know, our generation needs to do that for the new millennials. Right. You know, we need to be able to provide them with those tools and give them that wisdom so that they can, you know, move into successful. We want to see them having successful, you know, marriages, successful relationships. Right. And then also parenting. You know, a lot of our new millennials are becoming parents first, you know, and then relationship, you know, because they're, you know, in relationships where they end up, you know, having babies. So now they're having to really, you know, figure that part out. Right. So, you know, we really have to really step up and step in, you know, lean into them, you know, a lot more and offer whatever kind of advice that we can. Because I will say this, that, you know, our young people have examples. You know, every generation has examples that they pull from. Right. And our generation has examples of the celebrity, you know, there's celebrity relationships now that you are noticing that are really, you know, coming out and they're big now. So you have Beyonce and Jay-Z. You know, you have Sierra and her husband, you know, she's expecting now. I don't know if she had a baby. So you have even Cardi B, I think recently had a baby, right? So you have all of these people who are now, these are our young people's examples. These are examples that they have.
And different value systems.
Different value systems. So we really, I really wanted us to bring this to the forefront so that hopefully we can get some young listeners out there, you know, who are experiencing, you know, starting their journey in love, you know, to reach out to us. We really would love to hear from you all. We want to know, you know, what's on your mind. We want to know what kind of challenges you're having. We want to know what successes you're having too, because we really dump on our young people a lot. But I'm telling you, this is a dynamic generation. If once they can get a hold of and really grab onto their talents and their strengths, you know, it will just be an amazing generation. You know, they have the power to be very impactful, you know. So I don't want us to sleep on those, you know, sleep on them, because I'm telling you, they have some really dynamic young people that are coming up in the world. So I'm just hoping we can really, really be there for them. So that's what I have about the new millennials. I know Naima mentioned some more about it, and we'll talk more about this. Hopefully we'll be able to, you know, have this conversation again. This is just a really an overview because they do need us, you know, and we want to see them be successful. We want to see them shine. So I guess Nafisa, go ahead and see if you want to chime in on the topic of the next time around.
Yes, celebrating Black love the next time around. I just love this topic because when we talk about Black love specifically, I love Black men. I do. And I love in particular, African American men, right? And I say that because we come from our struggle and our history in this country in terms of coming through that, fighting through that, dealing with that, transcending that, triumphing over that. So all of that, ooh, when you get with a Black man, an African American man, oh my God, I love it. I love it. I just love Black men. I mean, everybody that knows me knows that. And celebrating Black love. In particular, I wanted to look at this perspective from the next time around because I was married for 23 years and I've been divorced almost about 4 or 5 years now. And so I've been on this journey of seeking a mate, trying to be open to receiving a mate the second time around. And particularly, not just the second time around, but the second time around in my midlife, right? So we who are doing it, seeking a second time around in the midlife, we may have different focus and different directions that we're trying to go in terms of choosing a mate than someone who's, let's say, 18 or 20, right? Because we have so much experience in dealing with the good, you know, the good or the bad, it doesn't matter, in terms of dealing with challenges and stuff like that. And hopefully have matured ourselves to certain levels that we really more in tune with our needs and what it is that we want and what it is that we're compatible with. And so what we're looking to add to the relationship is different, and what we're looking to get from the relationship is different, right?
Right.
In terms of those challenges the next time around. And I've just been reading a lot on different aspects. And of course, we could do a whole show on this, a whole series on this. I mean, we probably could do a whole 15 episodes on all these different aspects of the second time around when you're talking about blending families together, blending careers together, all that type of thing. But the specific aspect that I want to talk about is this whole idea of choosing a mate the next time around, and particularly in this phase and what that looks like. And some of the things that I've thought about that have brought clarity to the choice, so to speak. The first thing is this aspect of male-female energy and compatibility in this area, because I've been thinking about it, you know. Of course, if you are a male, there's certain types of masculine energy, right? And masculine aspects that you naturally exhibit, right? And as a female, you have certain feminine characteristics. But a lot of times, particularly we in America and Black folks, right? And in this coming age, we've had to, particularly Black women, we've had to take on a lot of these masculine characteristics in order to exist and to move forth in our careers, to move forth in society, whether we were single mothers or not. We've just had to take on a lot of these male characteristics. And sometimes in doing that, our femininity gets kind of lost or gets kind of buried underneath, right? So that's something as Black women that we are challenged with. And on the other hand, Black men and this whole idea of masculinity, right? There's been a lot of feminization in the world that's going on. And what was termed as being masculine or not is still kind of fluid, right, in the society. But really at the core of it, there are some masculinity characteristics, right? So when you're looking for a mate, you need to be in tune with your own, if you're a woman, your own feminine energy and your masculine energy, because all of us have aspects of both, right? So if you are a very feminine type of woman, right, that's not going to necessarily mesh up with a man who his feminine may be more higher than his masculinity. He's still a man. He exhibits to the world as a man, but in terms of some of his nurturing characteristics and that aspect may be high on the feminine. So two feminine, predominant feminine, that's not going to work, right? In terms of compatibility. And so what I'm trying to say is that when you're trying to seek a mate, you want to look at these different types of energies that's being exhibited. Just because he's a man doesn't necessarily mean that his masculinity is on 100. You know, his masculinity may be on 60, right? It doesn't make him less of a man. So you want to I just want us to try to look at that, because we're always trying to define what's compatible in terms of roles, but roles don't get to energy. And masculine and feminine energy, to me, that whole yin and yang concept is much more of a compatibility thing when people talk about a soulmate. At least that's been my experience. So when I'm checking out somebody, I'm checking out how they're moving in the world, what's their masculine energy feeling like, because I need a real masculine man, right? Because I'm feminine. I can be masculine. I had to be masculine and exhibit a lot of those characteristics, but I know my core, I'm a very feminine woman, right? So I need a very masculine man. So that's just an aspect of compatibility and Black love that's not normally talked about, right? That I wanted to kind of focus on and maybe give people in our Crown Nation the opportunity to look at that. Oh, you know, and this is not even about, I'm talking about energy levels, right? This is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about masculine and feminine energy and a compatibility in that sense. And the other thing I want to say about compatibility too, when you talk about the next time around, is this whole idea of connecting and compatible lifestyles. Because we've been married before, because we're in our mid-range, we have a certain type of lifestyle, each of us, that we've already been living, right? And that we might want to either expand on, or we might just be happy living the current lifestyle that we're living. So you got to seek out someone who has that same type of compatible lifestyle, right? You know, so that same type of compatible lifestyle is not gonna work. Let me give you an example. And I do a lot of online dating, y'all, okay? So I could write a book on my stories, but we ain't gonna go into that. But an example I wanna give is I'm very health conscious, right? In terms of what I eat, in terms of how I eat and all that. I'm very health conscious. So I'm not gonna necessarily, and it's a lifestyle, right? It's not just a day-to-day thing, I'm dieting. No, it's a lifestyle thing that I'm about, right? So when I'm seeking a mate, I'm seeking someone else who has that same compatible lifestyle. You know, they have an active lifestyle, they get out, they run, they bike, they do something that's physically active in terms of what they eat, they watch what they eat, they're not just eating anything, they're not eating a whole bunch of junk food. See, that's not gonna be compatible with me, because that's not compatible with my lifestyle, right? So when I'm choosing a mate, I gotta look at that, you know, how does this person eat? How does this person, not just are they dieting back and forth, but what's their lifestyle in terms of that, you know? And then some people are in transition along that. So I'm not just gonna look at them in terms of a static point in time, but I'm gonna look at it and see, okay, where's the gauge, and is it moving? You know, because maybe they used to eat pork, but now they transition it out of pork and they only eat bacon, but they trying to, So it's just like that whole compatibility thing, you know, that you want to be. And then some people, you know, because if you don't necessarily just date Muslims, right? That's a whole nother conversation. But if you date other people who are not Muslim, maybe people that drink wine, that's a compatibility issue. Because I don't drink alcohol. So is it going to be suitable for me to hook up with somebody else who does drink wine? You know, what's that like? What's that conversation like? What's that lifestyle type like? So these are just some of the considerations that I think when you talk about the second type of round, you want to kind of consider in terms of merging lifestyles, compatible lifestyles, and merging compatible energies, you know, with one another. And that's like my little snippet, just to kind of give you a little taste of what to consider the next time around.
Okay, nice. Well, thank you, honey. So yeah, so everyone has kind of mentioned, we've talked about those 3 different phases, and we really want to hear from some couples, right? So we have sought out a few couples from those 3 different phases that we mentioned, and we're going to hear from them. So let's move to a couple of videos of some couples.
Well, I think that longevity and love has a lot to do with, first of all, attraction, and then being committed to one another in marriage. You're committed to the marriage as well as to each other. And having a lot in common, but also honoring the other person, so that and supporting the other person. That has a lot to do with longevity in marriage. And
trust.
Yes, trust is also very important. And being committed to one another in the marriage, and having faith and a commitment in Almighty God too. During those rough times, it makes it easier when you both have that as the anchor.
And in quoting Imam Burkhan Muhammad, marriage is spelled W-O-R-K. Work.
Yes, marriage is a work. Is that it?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I think when you get married, initially you have these grandiose ideas of what marriage is. You have a level of expectations, but then the reality of life kicks in, and just dealing with everyday challenges in the marriage, because you work, you interact with other people, but you're still married to each other. And that is when you realize that God has the ultimate control over everything. And I think your beliefs and what you believe in has a lot to do. And then when you have a mate that thinks like that as well, even when you get to the roller coaster part of life, knowing that you're committed to each other because of what you believe in helps the marriage. Communication is important, and that's what trust comes into, because we are growing together. And the trust comes in because you know that you have each other's back. And as the test of life grows, deals with you, your trust gets stronger. Then your love for each other gets stronger too, because you see that you have someone who is committed to the relationship as well as to you, and you to your mate as well.
Yeah, you have someone who you can lean on, and when you go through a lot together, it tests the loyalty and the love that you have between each other. And I can't stress communication and honesty, being honest, um, and being true to yourself while you are being committed in your relationship. Being able to communicate that to your mate, that these are the things that are important to me, and being able to accept them for what's important to them, and working through that together to help to move your lives forward so that you can both achieve the goals that you have in life while you're supporting each other. And there will be some rough times. There will be rough times, and you're not always going to agree. But the overarching important aspect of the marriage is that you're committed. You may not always like the person, but you love the person.
And there also there's the good side of being married, because as you go through the struggles of life together and you at each other from time to time, the makeups are good.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So it's a journey, and it's a journey that you're committed. It's a lifelong journey that you're committed to for a lifetime. And you know, God willing, it will be something that will nurture both of you and help you grow to your individual fulfillment as well as your collective fulfillment as a couple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. So the question is, why did I or we decide to get married young? I think the reason why we wanted to get married young, I felt like we were ready, mature wise, not financially wise, we wasn't ready, but we had support to support us and doing what's right. It's a simple kind of thing, once you get to that age, late teenagers for me, late teenagers, out of coming senior year, high school, college years, the influences and the pressure and things like that. And you just want to do things right, basically put simply. And I think that was a big part of it. We knew that this was the right thing to do. We had people in our corner that was supporting us to do this, and we also felt like it would kind of put us, and good would come from it, right? When you do things right, good comes out of it, right? God loves what is good, right? And this is what is good. This is one of the best things that are good, and we're social human beings, right? We're human beings, and we're social, so we want to be with a partner, with the one that has your best interest, that cares, right? And so why wait? Why wait? You have that urge, you have that desire, you know what I mean? And don't listen to what the world may tell you. Don't listen to sometimes what your friends or other influences that don't have your best interest may tell you, what the culture may tell you, right? Go ahead and do what's right. And that's why we felt like we were ready. We felt like we had our ducks in order, and we set our intentions, and we went with it.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree. Like you were saying that our intentions, and our reason behind it, we kind of just wanted, for religious purposes and for, just as a society, what we wanted out of life. We wanted, the family life. And I always, even way before I even knew, I always kind of knew that I wanted to get married. I always kind of said I wanted to get married young. So just because I felt like, the sooner I can get my life started, we can build and we can grow into something that we really wanted to grow into. Starting young, and building, whatever we're trying to build. It's easier kind of when we're learning ourselves, we're learning each other, and we can grow together. So that was like one of the main reasons we decided to get married young. And like you said, we had that family support, that community support, and that was everything for us, when we needed to, stay with our parents for a little bit, when we needed to, you know what I'm saying, just guiding us through that. We had that support, so it gave us more confidence that we were able to do it. And we had the examples in front of us. So the advantages I would say of being married young would be that we were able to get to know each other at a young age, and at a time where we were learning ourselves, we were also learning each other. So it was a chance for us to get to grow together and get to really know each other as we're getting to know ourselves. So I feel like that's important because, you know, we're still flexible. We're not, you know, set in our ways and kind of like, you know, we can adjust. We can adjust to each other's personalities in a I feel like in a better way. Like we were, you know, in college when we were first married, and we were both, you know, pulling all nighters and both, you know, helping each other out with our, you know, studies and whatever. Like, and it just felt like, you know, we had the same end goal, and same vision. So we pushed each other. We were like, no, we're gonna graduate. We're gonna wait till we wait for babies. We're gonna do this, and we really kind of were more focused. I would say we had a goal. We had something, you know, kind of something to prove to ourselves, and you know, we wanted to make sure that we achieved those goals.
Yeah, definitely, man. The advantages are really, endless. You know what I mean? Because you have, first of all, you have someone there. First of all, y'all intentions are right. You're doing it with the right purpose. You know what I mean? And we just see a carved out lane for us, right? And so that doesn't mean that it's gonna come easy, but it does mean that we're going in the right direction. You know what I mean? And so that gives a lot of motivation and inspiration to ourselves to like, okay, let's continue. We can do this thing. You know what I mean? Starting from like she said, in college, you know what I mean? Just figuring each other out. Okay, I'm not good at writing. I got good ideas, but I can't really write that well. So can you help me with that, right? So that was something that's a real thing that happened, right? So yeah, there's that support there. You know what I mean? Oh, I don't feel like I'm not a good public speaking. Can you help me out with that? You know what I mean? Okay, yeah, I got you. You know what I mean? This is how you whatever. You know what I mean? So just to that basic level there, and then it just continues to grow. You know what I mean? Because you're getting older. You know, as I said, late teens, early 20s. So you're not fully you don't have everything figured out, what you want to be, how you want to contribute to society, right? And then that just continues to grow. You know what I mean? You have those conversations, and you have these goals and dreams and these aspirations, and you just have someone that's right there with you. You know what I mean? Just pushing you, and you pushing them, and they're pushing you. You know what I mean? And it translates into business. It translates into family and children, right? It just translates into more money, right? It just translates into different aspects, right? You just materialize these things differently. Whether, you go out there and kind of just play around, and, society tells you to just play and do you and get yours and just have fun, right? But now, just let's build, you know what I mean? Let's build, let's establish something. That starts with family, you know what I mean? So let's talk it out, let's work it out, you know what I mean? Let's plan, let's execute, let's organize, and let's establish, you know what I mean? So, and that happens, and that's happening right within our family, you know what I mean? And hopefully our goal is for that to translate into a broader community, you know what I mean? Into the nation, right? So it's so many advantages that getting married brings about your way, you know what I mean? It's a contract, it's an agreement, and you have to do your part, and that other person has to do their part, you know what I mean? And someone's not doing their part, hey, let's sit down, let's talk about this. This is how I feel, this is what's going on. You know what I mean? Let's get it all out, you know what I mean? And, okay, this is what I did wrong, okay, boom, all right, let's move forward, you know what I mean? So just, man, so many levels, it's so many advantages, you know what I mean? Just from that, just breaking things down and exposing things and holding people accountable, right? So on that level, to going up to whatever businesses and whatever establishments that you, and whatever dreams you may have, all the way up. So it's definitely the right thing to do, with the right intent, with the right support, with the right with the right support and with the right intentions, I would say, you know what I mean? And just going in there and just knowing that it's going to be tough, but you're doing the right thing.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll start it. I think for me, I just think the second time around allows you to appreciate it more, because I think first time around you kind of take it for granted. You don't really know what you're getting into. I think second time around, there's a lot more thought. Second time around, I'm a Christian, so the second time around I did it, I was in the church and Christian. So I think all of those, that attribute of being a Christian plus just being older, wiser, smarter, a little bit more understanding of the significance of it, makes it better.
And to add to that, I think, again, I think the fact that godliness and God is in the center of our marriage really puts the focus and the accountability for our unity. And then also the fact that you do have a chance for second time around.
Well, for me, one of the challenges is at the same time, you have a second chance and you can try to learn from your prior mistakes. But I think a pitfall is you can get real, I know for me, I would just say you can get real comfortable. You can get complacent. You can take it for granted if you're not careful. You feel like you found kind of your soulmate, but you don't always stay sharp and stay focused on what brought you together in the first place. You can just get comfortable and complacent. And if you get comfortable and complacent, then life can get routine and you're not growing to your maximum capacity. So I think that's a danger. In terms of having to overcome it, I don't know if I've really overcome it. It's always, for me, kind of a work in progress and a challenge. I think it just requires sacrifice, and it requires a willingness to sacrifice, a willingness to not be all about yourself, but to really kind of focus on what the Bible said in Genesis 2:24 about trying to cleave to individuals, trying to cleave as one. Those aren't just words. Those are instructions. And I think if you truly are trying to cleave as one and being willing to sacrifice and do all that it entails, then that's a way to overcome it. So you do have to realize that there is somebody else in the relationship. It's not all about you. It requires sacrifice, and it requires trying to go together, grow together as one, communicate, and that's how you overcome it. I don't know if you ever already master it. I don't think it's intended to be mastered, because I think it's intended to be a growth process and an ongoing process. But I believe that's the foundation of what it takes.
And I think for me, the challenge, one of our greatest challenges is trying to ensure that our blended families doesn't cause division between us, and that we recognize that we are a blended family, and that even with that opportunity of increasing our family size, it does take unity to make sure that we're on the same page and that we don't allow for any division to occur as a result of that blending two families together, especially, when, based upon the different probably expectations and habits that were formed in the individual lifestyles prior to the new reunion, and how you have to really work together to make sure that you stay in unity with one another and not allow that blendedness to create conflict within your unity.
All right, Crown Nation. So I really, really appreciate our couples for coming on and sharing some of their wisdom. I'm just so inspired by them, the young couples, the couples who have been sticking it out, and the couples who had the courage to try again. So that is just amazing. And I really, really, really encourage everyone to, let's just celebrate Black love. There's so much going on in the world, let's just push it. Let's flood the internet with love. We got our red on. I put
Our
red
red and
lipstick
black,
on today.
okay.
Hey, black love. You know, let's just share it. Share it, Crown Nation. We love you all. We thank you for tuning in. Like us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, and follow us on Instagram. I think I got it right.
Yeah, you
All
did.
right. Peace
And
out.
don't forget to share your Black Love photo. So go to our Rock Facebook page and share your most precious Black Love photo, and let's create a Rock the Crown Black Love photo album. So we hope to see you all again.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time on
Rock
the Crown. Peace.